Yes, guys, welcome back. Well, I say welcome back, but welcome to a new show where we're just going to be discussing some topics in football. I have joined with me, Williams, Rahil, and Ahmed. And today we're just going to be talking about what sort of issues that we're facing in football in the modern world. So thank you very much, guys, for joining me on this. Pleasure to have you.
Pleasure being here, to be honest.
Thanks for having me.
Likewise. Thanks
Brilliant.
for having me too.
So getting started, let's look at the recent news that we've had with Axel Tuanzebe and Anthony Martial, and I'm sure many other footballers experiencing racial abuse on the football pitch. What do we think about that, and what do you think the mentality of the footballers is when they face things like this?
So,
personally, sorry, go ahead. Now, personally, I think it's to be honest, it's never going to die because it's just been going around for so many years now, and it's just become social media has become a place where people can just go on there and just do what they want. And obviously, footballers are crying out for it to be changed, but the only people that can really change is the governing bodies that are controlling these social media platforms. You know, there's not they've got people behind a keyboard just typing away, and the implications of it, I don't think in terms of like the sentences and stuff, and obviously what's been going around in terms of punishments, I don't think they're high enough. And I think people just feel like they can get away with it and just do whatever they want. And obviously when they see other people getting away with it and not getting high punishments and getting away with it with fines and whatnot, they'll obviously carry on doing it. So
yeah.
And,
the
thing about it, what I see, you hear me? What I see about this, it's poor. It's poor that obviously these footballers have to look at the comments and see that kind of thing. But also, I feel like us putting it out in the media, showing like, these football players have been racially abused, putting it out, I'm showing like the comments there, is making these guys feel kind of big, like, yeah, we done that, like kind of thing, you know what I mean? Because these people are doing it behind fake accounts, you know, and obviously it's hard to keep like track of the people that are doing it. Do you know what I mean? So what I feel like is, the people that are pretty much in charge of Instagram, Facebook, like these apps that should start like monitoring these, like basically any abusive comments that goes on, just delete it, and also probably just like delete the Instagram as well. And also another thing I was thinking as well is that these people are creating a lot of fake accounts as well. The thing about these people are just seeing it as fun. Like they'll see, like when they racially abuse someone in comments, they'll see it go up in Sky Sports with the comments, or go up in like mainstream sports. And I feel like they feel big for doing that because they feel like, yeah, I done that comment, but no one knows who done it, and they'll be bragging about it, kind of thing. So what I also feel like with these social media platforms like Instagram, as I said, Facebook, Twitter, when people are registering for obviously to keep tabs of all this abusive stuff, not just racial, but abusive comments like trolling and things like that, but to keep tabs, so Instagram has got to start taking people's photos and when they're registering, do you know what I mean? But then that's when you can pretty much be able to police who's doing what, and who is obviously racially abusing people. Because as you said, like if those type of things are not, like the policing from Instagram, the owners of Instagram or Facebook actions are not being taken, people are going to carry on. It's going to keep going on. They're going to keep creating fake accounts and keep going at it. And at the end of the day, when you're putting it up on a platform, like when you're drawing attention to it, I think they're getting hyped up from that attention that the medias are giving to it as well. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like actions need to be taken where anyone that is registering for these social media platforms, they have to put their ID in. Do you know what I mean? So when something like that happens, then you'll be able to track who's done it.
Yeah, who's behind it. I think that's I think I agree with that in the sense that, again, it could be anyone. Do you know what I mean? You could be walking past someone down the street and you'd never know it was them behind the account. So I get that in the sense, but I also want to look at how we can help footballers because, the punishment is all well and good. And we can talk all day about what we'd like to do to punish these people for putting those sort of things on the internet. But how can we support footballers going through it? Because at the end of the day, they are the ones receiving it, and they are the ones who then have to then turn up next week and play on the weekend again. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, when you talk about that point, it's a really interesting point. And when you talk about supporting players, it comes back to what William says in a weird way. There has to be that support structure within Instagram, within Facebook, within Twitter, wherever they're getting it from, where they can just instantly report it and it goes away. Or there's something they can do where, they can work together with these companies so they can track down these racists as well. But also it's down to the club and down to probably their teammates as well. For instance, back when England played a team, I can't remember who it was, but they threatened to walk off the pitch if there was racism. And that just wasn't black players, or it was white players too. And that shows the key thing we need in life, which is unity. Because if it's just non-white players making, bringing it to attention, it might not get the attention it needs, because we need everyone on board. We just don't need the ones being abused. We need the ones who know that people are getting abused. We need people to report. We need people to work together rather than working as individuals. And when you speak about the support they need, it's an interesting topic about the word support, because obviously any United fan could probably see that Tuanzebe, when he came on, did another mistake against Everton. And quite frankly, it happens in football. We don't know what happened, but maybe those racist remarks were still playing in his mind, and maybe the club needs to take him a step back and, see if mentally he's okay. Physically, he's a top player. But, he looks like a great centre-back. That could be me being biased here, I don't know. But, mentally, they need to make sure he's okay, he's ready for it. And also just helping the players talk about it, talk openly about racism. Don't treat it like it's a weird subject. Be open and honest with their players and work together with their players rather than letting him all do it. Like, if Rashford's reporting it, granted, Man United stepped in as well and thought, yeah, this simply can't run. And we stand with our players. We've seen in the past where clubs don't really want to associate themselves a lot with it because they're worried about their brand or something like that. Arsenal, for instance, with what Mesut Ozil reported back in the summer, that led to a massive fallout. So it's about how players and clubs can work together, in my opinion.
I agree with that. Anyone else?
Touching on the actual players, referring back to the Champions League game and PSG walked off and Istanbul, when Demba Ba obviously went up to the referee and he called him a black person. Now, obviously, maybe it was taken out of context, but obviously we're in times now where you say anything and obviously players will be triggered and it will just be made out to be racist. Now, obviously, we don't know the circumstances of what happened there and what the referee meant and what his intentions were. But you could tell in that situation there was unity, and the team, basically PSG and the other team walked off together, which showed that we're not taking it lightly and everybody's together on this, and that was a good message in my opinion. But in terms of footballers being racially abused, I think it comes down to their performances, and unfortunately, that's what people do, judge people on performances, and it just triggers, which it shouldn't be a trigger anyway, but. It shouldn't be a trigger anyway, but it just basically triggers footballers. Not footballers, supporters. Because Anwar El Ghazi of Aston Villa had to suspend his account after he was getting, not racially abused, but he's getting abused on social media after his performances. So I think in terms of football itself, there's a lot of unity with it, but it's just an everlasting thing. It's just, when is it going to stop? Is there going to be a time for it to stop? So I feel in this situation, we're just probably in the worst of times on this topic itself. So I
agree with you totally, because the thing about it, from my point of view, we're fighting for this racism, let's kick it out. People do a lot of campaigns. Obviously we had the Black Lives Matter that was going on, but it's just stupid people that would, obviously, as I said, stupid fans that are probably following trollers that are probably following people's Instagram. I just see it as, I feel like they see it as a joke kind of thing. They don't take into account this is a serious matter. They just see it as a joke, here we're having a laugh kind of thing. So I feel like all this, it needs to start from the people that run, as I keep saying, it needs to start from people that runs this platform, to start policing people, just like the police on the street, policing these people on social media, start putting the ID, because it's getting worse. If people are putting out racist comments, abusive comments on obviously social media, and then for example, they say, you know what, let's stop football until this stops. Do you think that's going to make a difference if you pretty much do that? People start probably doing it worse. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's the owners of these platforms that need to start doing something. Start like actually making a stamp on, you know what, any abusive comment, any racial comments off, and obviously some sort of punishment, because you've then got their IDs or something like that. You know, that's when people might start, you know, taking their social media and obviously that platform seriously. But right now, because you don't really know who's behind these social media's account, they'll just create a bunch. They'll probably have like a bunch of phones and a bunch of mates in their house. Let's create a few platforms and just keep firing it out like racist comments. Do you know what I mean? So it's literally from, I feel like, the head that runs the social media. And then when it comes to like racism on pitch and things like that, that's where obviously players have to come together always. Do you know what I mean? And as you said, like the PSG, them walking out was a great example, was a good message behind that, you know. And obviously if we get more people like that, when it comes to on the pitch, like situations in terms of racism, that's when those type of messages would be a massive impact. Do you know what I mean? But when it comes to like social media, like people commenting, like if there's no policing on social media, then we're pretty much in trouble trying to stop this racial abuse. That's my opinion. Anyway,
I agree with that totally in a sense. I just want to touch on a fact that Will Smith mentioned last, I believe it was May, at the peak of the Black Lives Matter movement. He said that racism isn't actually getting worse. It's just being documented and it's just being shown to the world, which I agree with. I've just got something here from Emil Heskey, who did a report to the BBC about an incident that happened when he was 13. He says, I was 13 and I was chased home from a Leicester City football match by a Leicester fan back to his town centre. He said he was a young kid and he was calling me black and this and that. And he said he didn't know what he was going to do to him. Now, that's not to say that that wouldn't happen today, but that's to touch on the fact that, is racism getting worse or is it just being shown to everyone?
I think on that point, that's a really good point you mentioned about how back in the 70s and 80s, we probably had the football casual, the football ultras and stuff like that. But for me, it's just moved on this. It's just moved on to phones.
Yeah.
It's gone virtually. That's what happens. Obviously, there are some people who still probably are physical and stuff like that who get violent. I'm not saying there isn't anymore, but now we have our phones where we can express ourselves. And it comes back to what William says. You know, you never know the intent of what someone is posting sometimes, whether it's an influencer, a footballer, whatever, a normal account. This kid who did that thing to Wilfred Zaha, who tweeted him and Wilfred Zaha exposed him. You know, that kid was 13, 14. Now, you know, probably didn't know what he was doing. Just probably thought it would be a laugh, but it's not a laughing matter. And that's the problem with it. Similar to probably what happened with Heskey, that guy might be trying to scare him or trying to evoke him. He might not necessarily be do it for a malicious intent, but probably is. But it's one of those issues where it's all moved online. It's more accessible to be racist or what have you. We've seen it on our own posts from time to time. We've had to delete it where we posted something about Black Lives Matter and one guy out of 100 decided to be that guy who's like, oh, I don't like this. And it happens. And it's a way how we address it. We report the accounts, we move forward, and that's how we have to be. But to come back to your point, it is what Will Smith said. We just see it more nowadays, you know. We're all non-white in this call, unless anyone wants to come clean or anything like that. But, in our day-to-day, we probably posted something on Instagram or whatever, and probably had something racist said, or, you know, we've posted something about what we're doing and someone said something racist, you know. It's this confidence now that people have due to social media, due to hiding behind a computer screen. And it comes back to simply, we need to make sure that we can stop these troll accounts at any situation, because when it is physical racism and you can see it, then it's probably more easier to stop. Like you talk about those players working off the pitch. But when it's all online and it's all fake accounts, burner accounts, or whatever you call these accounts, what can we do? Well, how can we stop them other than report them, if that makes sense?
That's where Willsy's point comes in of identification when setting up social media accounts, because that is the only way to to catch the perpetrators. I totally agree with that. And I do think that racism is an issue that it's pushed now onto social media, as you said, Ahmed, which is a brilliant point. I just want to ask you guys, what do you think about racism? Do you think social media is a help, or do you think it's a hindrance at times? Because, you know, we're looking at players now who are able to market themselves a lot better using social media. There are a lot of players who like the fact that social media exists because it allows them to show themselves off in a way that they might not be able to do without social media. Paul Pogba is a big, you know,
Exactly.
a big person who does that. But in terms of the racist side of it, you know, I've got a report here from David McGoldrick, Sheffield United striker who received racial abuse. I think it was last season after scoring 2 goals against Chelsea, was very harshly racially abused and I think he ended up deleting his Twitter account or his Instagram account because of that. So do we think it's that social media is getting worse? Do we think it's a help? Do we think it's a hindrance? Should it be toned down? Because obviously social media is bigger now than it was even 10 years ago. It's come up very far within the last 10, 15 years. So what do we think about that?
So, what was I going to say? It can be all three, man. It can be negative, it can be positive, and you can get a lot of abuse on it depending on how you want to use it. Do you know what I mean? Like, me personally, I see to social media as a toxic place because when you go on it, it always seems something negative. But it depends on how you want to see it. It depends on how you see it as a person. Some people see it, many people see it as a marketing platform, which helps them boost their business, which helps them get to far places, kind of thing. So I feel like it just depends on the individual. Do you know what I mean? Like it's always based on individuals that bring negativity or positivity. Hence why I would say the policing has to come into social media to balance things out. Do you know what I mean? But then you can cut out those negative stuff. You know, because at the end of the day, I feel like compared to the negative side, the positive side of social media weighs more because a lot of people have become something great out of social media. You know what I mean? Taking that away would just collapse a lot of things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Going back to the policing again, it's me personally anyway, I feel like it needs to be more controlled. Like the use of social media by obviously the people that are the owners of it, like watching out how things are done. Like literally it's got to a point like it's like a real life stuff now, social media. Like what happens on a daily life, on your real life, where you're getting police, you can't do certain crime, and then you get penalized for certain crime you're doing in real life. That's the same as social media. It should be treated like that because people are actually looking at social media and they're feeling like some people are looking at things thinking they're worthless or they want to commit suicide, this and do you know what I mean? And things like that. So like there's got to start being like a balance and people like, yeah, just looking more into that. I feel like as I keep going back to the application process, I feel like the application process they've got to be more in depth now. People shouldn't be able to apply so easily, especially how big these social media platforms are now. So they've got to put more questions into this application registration process, you know, because I feel like that would balance it out a little, kind of, but definitely more on the positive side, social media, because it helps out.
Yeah, I think just to touch on that, I've got a stat here from Kick It Out who said that in the last season at the professional game, phone reports went down by 70%, which means players in the professional game weren't obviously comfortable with talking to someone over the phone, but the reports via social media actually went up by a massive 229%. So I think touching back on my point and your point as well, I do believe that social media can have its benefits, but I also know that it can be used in a negative way. And in this case, with all the issues that we're seeing in the game, it's a very negative way, which is, you know, hampering players' performance and morale. I mean, it's becoming a thing of now where players are going to have to watch how they perform and are not allowed, you know, not that they want to, but they're not allowed to have a bad performance or they're not allowed to be not on top of their game or 100%, because now the impact of not having a good game means, you know, not only maybe backlash from your fans about how you perform, but now it becomes personal in the sense that you're now being racially abused.
And yeah, sorry, even that as well. Like, they're not even allowed to be themselves on social media now,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
They've got to put out like a more an image kind of thing just to maintain their reputation. Do you know what I mean? And that's not nice. That can be daunting for people, like carrying yourself in a way that you're not. So social media, not just obviously footballers, but a lot of people, it's also that psychological effect as well. So it's, you know, I don't know, it's a difficult one as well, that one. So yeah, nah.
Yeah, you
Personally,
guys.
I think. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go first. You go first.
I was just saying, personally, I think Twitter is obviously one of the best platforms for marketing and stuff. I agree with Myra on that completely. But I just think, like, you know, you look at iPhones in the 20th century, they've got Touch ID, they've got Face ID. It's so easy for an app to install that, and, you know, for you to have your face on there, and obviously have your have a recognition system that recognizes, you know, who's the person behind the account, because it's just once the person, obviously there's an investigation carried out once there's racial abuse, and it's very hard to find out who's behind the account, you know, and obviously facial ID and all of these recognition systems will pick up who it is quite quickly. But it's really frustrating because you look at it and you think that's something that they could do, you know, potentially to actually prevent it. They could have done that before, you know, taking the knee, but obviously is taking the knee really helping? Obviously, you look at stuff like you look at incidents like Romain Sawyer's, for example. You know, when City beat West Brom at the Hawthorns 5-0, you know, it's clearly linked to performances, and obviously people go on social media to, you know, just give their opinions about a performance of a player, and it obviously turns nasty. But there's just no place for it really, and I don't really know if the knee's working, if I'm honest with you.
You talk about the knee, and that's a brilliant topic as well to bring up, because obviously with it is the Premier League have released this new plan that they want to do. It's like a 10-step plan or something like that. I've not read it yet, but obviously that's because of the criticism the knee's got. If anyone remembers this, when I was always going to say they started the knee without fans, and the first game they saw the knee with fans. That was at Millwall, not the best stadium to do it at. You know, fans booed, and that's the thing. There are going to be that 10% that are going to probably go retaliate for no reason. It's that like riot mentality or whatever you want to call it, where they just want to argue for the sake of arguing. And you talk about social media, but again, for me, what William said is absolutely true. It's a double-edged sword. Anyone, whether you're a footballer, an influencer, a foodie, or whatever you do on Instagram and you make money off it as additional, people are going to have a dig at you. You know, there's probably no one like that who's gone, no, my Instagram's all great, everyone loves me, because you're lying to yourself and you're lying to others. Yeah. So when you look at footballers, you know, they might have to take other steps now. They may have to get rid of comments. Zaha, for instance, you know, he doesn't let anyone tag him in anything or anything like that, or DM him. You know, he's just simply post, you can like it, that's it. And that's probably something we'll see more players adapting, stuff like that. Selective comments have come into Twitter, and retweets have come into Twitter. And these could be features that we see implemented in future accounts for footballers. Now, that's pretty terrible for some footballers, because some footballers like interacting with their fans. For example, if anyone follows Jesse Lingard, when he plays like that, they love to comment back. They love having a good joke and laugh and banter with their fans. And that shouldn't be taken away from him, because that 10% I keep talking about wants to ruin it for the rest of us 90% who love the individual for what they are and criticize for the individuals with stuff they can help, e.g. their football ability, not for something like the color of their skin. So it's one of those issues moving forward. I am interested to see how the Premier League now, because the Premier League's the biggest league in the world, that's just a fact. And it's probably so multicultural and stuff like that, different ethnicities. If you've ever gone to a Man United, Chelsea game, you know, it feels like you've seen every corner of the world, the amount of people that turn up from different walks of life. So the Premier League now needs to step up, in my opinion, from the knee and work towards combating this racism. And they have to do open and honest. You know, they can't hide away and just keep using the knee as some sort of fight. The knee is great, yes, it's the first step, but what's the next step?
I agree with that totally. There's been talk of the knee and players who previously had Black Lives Matter on their shirts, as we all saw. There's been talk of it having a political undertone. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, you know, when you talk about political undertone and stuff like that, we are moving in a different generation where it's so good to see that this is shunned against, different sport completely, but same type of agenda. When Kaepernick kneed during the American national anthem, he didn't get the same response. And, when we saw Suarez, make those racist remarks to Patrice Evra, in some aspects, he was defended by Liverpool fans and he was defended by his own manager, Kenny Dalglish, at one point. So, it's now that we've changed and politics has changed with it, I do see there's a political agenda with it, but it's a good political agenda. And it's something we should fight for, not just think, oh, they're just doing it to be PC. Yes, they are doing it to be PC, but it will have a good outcome.
One question I have, it's when that guy, the American footballer, when he done that knee stand, why didn't everyone jump on the bandwagon whilst when that happened? But now that everyone then saw a big thing, that's when you get I saw Amazon started putting it up on their sales. I see Netflix started doing stuff for it, or different companies started getting involved. Why didn't when it happened, when people are actually crying out for it before, why didn't this big company? That's what I want. Why didn't they come out and say, you know what, let's actually fight for them? But when it comes when it becomes a thing, a big thing, and then obviously they feel like they're losing money now, that's when they want to start.
I think Nike used that as a big campaign. They used that as a campaign, and obviously Nike's billions and trillions of money in there. So using Kaepernick's knee and fist in the air, they used that and they 100% marketed and benefited off that tone. So I agree with you.
I'm not saying they should do it. It's helping out, it's raising awareness. I'm just asking, why didn't they do it when people were actually crying out before for it? It was almost like a thing, if they put it up, it's going to destroy their brand. But now when they saw that a lot of people are actually backing it, they're thinking, you know what, let's jump on it so then we can get more market and more financial gains from it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not a thing for me personally. I don't know how genuine it is they're doing it. It's obviously there's an agenda towards why companies are jumping on board. But at the end of the day, all publicity is great publicity anyway. You know what I mean? So can't really.
The thing is, how long is it going to carry on for? How much money are they going to make out of it? The thing, I agree with Ahmed. What are the next steps? What are the Premier League going to do about it? Because you can't take the knee forever. Obviously people are going to be taking advantage of the whole Black Lives Matter system and obviously making their money off, whatnot. But what's the next step? What's going to happen? Because it just can't go on forever.
I agree with that totally.
That's the question.
That is the question. Looking at work that Kick It Out does, do you guys think Kick It Out does enough to help out? And I know we keep going in a bit of a circle, but our organizations like the FA, we saw that the chairman of the FA was recently last year dismissed and stepped down from his role. Are we looking at maybe there is a little bit of racism at the top? I know that can be quite controversial, but are we looking at a bit of discrimination at the top? What do you guys think about that?
I wouldn't say it's discrimination at the top. I wouldn't say that. I would say it's a lack of sympathy or whatever you want to use with the top. Yeah. Because the comments he made were outdated, weird, and didn't make much sense to me. They came out of nowhere. And it felt like, well, this isn't affecting me, so why should I care? And it's that lack of, it's just people making noise. And, it's that type of attitude, which is wrong because, we need people, regardless of their skin tone, regardless of their race, gender, ethnic, religion, whatever they just need someone to listen, who wants to make change, who wants to listen to these players or spectators or whoever you are that feel like you don't belong in the beautiful game. Especially in England, it's one of those multicultural countries in the world where, you've got fans from all, from every different ethnicity loving the game. So, you need to work with them and especially players as well, and work with them towards helping them out. Like I remember once England, and this was in 2018 before the World Cup, England under 14s posted a photo of their team they've selected for this competition. And the top comment was, where's the white kids? Where's the white kids? This isn't my country. And it was all just, it was a barrage of comments. And Gareth Southgate simply came out and said, this is not on. He didn't wait for someone to address it. He just said in a meeting, I saw this and I was disgusted by it. And I got a lot of respect for that. When you've got people who want to do that change, it's good. However, it comes back to what Myron said. You need people at the top who want to do it, who want to help, because it's all good for them posting on their Instagram story. It's all good to make a PR campaign, but realistically, what are you doing to make those changes? What happened with the Millwall game? Apparently, those fans were suspended until the end of the season. Corona hits, everyone's losing out. There's not much you can do with them. What can you ban them for life?
Is that enough? Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on. Are we finished? Go on.
No, I mean that's what I mean. Like, what can you do? What is the punishment there? And what can we need more change at the top, especially so we can make more systematic changes that would work rather than just a PR campaign.
Yeah. It was a thing, but there was a lot of discrimination then, kind of thing. So obviously they've grown up having that mentality of discrimination, which they haven't got much education of yet. Do you know what I mean? But obviously coming to our generation now, like you've got a lot of people that are now educated. So it's only our generation that can change it when leaders take over, like in the high places. Do you know what I mean? Because then they understand what it's like in obviously with discrimination during this time. I'm making sense, kind of thing. So I feel like obviously the old lots that are not educated in terms of, because they still came through that the 80s when a lot of discrimination was going on, the 70s, and obviously it's almost like a subconscious thing. I'm not backing them up, but it's almost like part of them, kind of thing, which is terrible. As I said, like a lot of old people, sorry to say, they're not open to learning new stuff. Do you know what I mean? As opposed, and we'll possibly be like that when we get older. I hope we're not like that, but we'll possibly be like that. So it's just them trying to adapt to obviously the current changes. I feel like it's our generation or the people that are or the younger ones that are going to make the changes, not anyone at the top at the moment, because I don't feel like they're willing to listen to the younger ones or what we've got to bring to offer, to be fair. So yeah,
I'm totally with you on that point. That brings me on to the Rooney rule, which I'm not sure if you guys are aware of. It's a rule that means that the clubs must interview at least one Black, Asian or minority ethnicity candidate for each head coach or general manager vacancy. This was obviously introduced by the NFL in 2003. It wasn't always done in the UK. It only was adopted by the FA in 2018 after realizing there aren't a lot of BAME people in the hierarchies of the game, which led to Raheem Sterling saying that there isn't any representation of any Black and ethnic minority people in the higher parts of the game that we play, which does link back to your point in the sense that if there are no people at the top, how are people meant to see that there are people that they can look up to someone? Do you know what I mean? So what do you guys think on the Rooney rule, and is it working? Is what
I was actually going to touch on that as well. Considering, you look at Dwight York and Sol Campbell and Andy Cole, these are football players who are trying to break into management, and the only manager who I've seen is being given a shot has been Sol Campbell. So when you look at the whole hierarchy and you're talking about, Rooney and obviously them interviewing a certain amount of people for positions, I think it's just being done it just needs to be done, basically. They're just doing it because it's essential, but they're not really being considered for the roles because, people are looking down upon people from these backgrounds. And unfortunately, we're in times where, it's not going to change because, you look at someone like Frank Lampard. He's been given the job at Derby County, and then he went to Chelsea and then he got sacked. Why isn't a manager like Dwight York or Andy Cole being considered for at least a championship job? Begs a question, really, doesn't it? Like, why is the difference between, Frank Lampard and an Andy Cole or a Dwight York? What are you differentiating on?
Absolutely, I think I agree with that. In the sense of look at the career Sol Campbell had. I don't think he's ever been considered for managing a higher team. Obviously, Frank Lampard is an excellent example, as someone with, minimal, but fantastic experience at Derby County, but, very quickly considered to, manage Chelsea, which is a massive, huge responsibility, as we saw. So I just asked the question again, like, do we think it's working? Do we think there is a steady increase in different ethnicities?
I don't think so. I don't think it's working, because they can say, we can interview certain amount of BME people, like Asian and Black people. Yes, you can interview them and whatnot, but then would they give them the job? That's the question. So basically, and I feel like another thing again is that they don't give us that. They don't give the BME that confidence to go on and apply for that job. They give us that option, say, the Rooney rule is here, but then they'll say, go apply for it. The support, this is just from my opinion, anyway, I don't know about it, the support that they would offer to their own will be different compared to the support they'll offer. So, for example, if they send I'm just using a rough example, if they send an application form out for everyone, the white person will probably get more support in terms of, okay, this type of training you have, this type of thing, this is what you need to do while they're there in the interview, as opposed to when we get the chance for the interview, it's just, okay, you go do it yourself. Do you know what I mean? So it possibly gets difficult like that, So I feel like there need to be more for us in terms of that Rooney thing. I feel like there need to be more training also that would also help us out as well, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And just not leave us, because I feel like they're leaving us, just throwing us in the deep end, and they say, go do it, and then they're like, we gave them the interview. You know what I mean? But they didn't give us the preparation as well for it. Do you know what I mean? So we have to go figure it out. So the thing about it, with us, we have to pretty much work harder when it comes to these type of jobs, basically. I don't know if I'm making sense, but
no, I see where you're coming from in a sense.
Yeah.
Ahmed?
Yeah, back to what Winnie was just saying, people in our scenarios, I'm sure Rahel can agree with me, we're still waiting for a British Asian footballer, to break through the ranks. We have not seen I've not seen a lad who looks like me, who talks like me, doesn't even walk like me sometimes, come through the ranks. I'm from a very multicultural city of Leicester, and Leicester City's academy. I've never seen a lad like me break through. Maybe that's because none of them are talented. I don't know, but it still baffles me to this day that I played with some pretty talented British Asian footballers who never got the same opportunities, who never got it. And then they throw the same stereotypes where, parents care for education, all of that. Throw that out the window. Those are old 80s, 90s relics. I don't care for them anymore, and neither do new generation care that much for them. There might be that small percentage, but there are a lot of them who want to try sports and want to make that their profession, but we rarely see it, And when Williams talks about, when we finally get the opportunity to jump into hoops and all that, it becomes that issue where they don't know how hard you've worked for the opportunity, You're going to get those comments where it's going to be like, they gave it to him because of his skin tone, or that's just a PR campaign, or what have you. That's across football, whether you play it, whether you broadcast it, or whether you work for a club. There's always going to be those irritating comments where people aren't going to respect that you worked hard at the same as someone who's not the skin tone as you, thinking that, look, they gave it to him because they need to fit a quota. And if clubs are doing that, that's wrong. And if organizations are doing that, that's wrong too. They should interview each candidate and treat them equally. Yes, we need more opportunities. Yes, we need that. But it comes to what William says. Sometimes we need that step up. We need that help to get to that level now, because it's all good giving us opportunities, but it's about how you treat us equally rather than treat us different.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
So what I noticed is that, there's a lot of job applications, in terms of obviously these higher roles, these management roles in terms of sports and things like that. But when ethnic minorities sees it, they feel like, we're not going to get accepted. Do you know what I mean? And then they feel like, let's just leave it. We're not going to. But that's what I'm saying. If they can show everyone, listen, anyone can. It doesn't matter what race you are. Anyone can get this job. Do you know what I mean? You just have to be skilled. That's all we look at. Really, this Rooney quota shouldn't even. It shouldn't even be there. They should do this naturally. Do you know what I mean? If you're good at what you do, then you're good at what you do. And there's so many people, ethnic minority, that are good at what they do, probably better than some people that are up there. But they look at the job, they're thinking, oh yeah, just another one that would just they wouldn't give me the job, and they don't apply. So then it then looks like ethnic minorities are not interested in this type of job, and that's probably what they'll start putting out. We put out these quotas, but we don't get a lot of application. But why they're not getting a lot of application? Because the ethnic minorities are not confident enough. They're not giving them the confidence to apply for it. So I feel like also there needs to be some sort of support to push them, not just putting out the winning quota, but some sort of support to push them to, wanting to apply for these jobs, showing them that, listen, anyone can get it. Do you know what I mean? Just as long as you're skilled and you've got the you're compatible for the job as well. That's it, really.
I think there shouldn't be the need to fill a position with someone who's Black or Asian or from any sort of ethnic minority because it's a statistic or there's any sort of quota to fill. You should fill that position purely because the person is good at what they do. Troy Townsend, who works from Kick It Out, has recently accused some clubs of using a loophole. So obviously the rule states that...
I lost you there on my side. Don't go on. No, I lost you there.
All right, okay. So the rule states that clubs have to at least interview one person, but if a club only interviews one person for a role, if they receive 15 applications and only decide to interview one, well, then that's a loophole and they don't technically have to interview someone who is from an ethnic minority. So I do think that there needs to be that sort of, we need to completely remove that stigma and we need to get rid of the quota behind it as if to say, like, we need someone in this role. We don't want to have to just hire someone because they're of a different background. We should just hire them because they're really good at what they do and we feel like they could benefit the organization or the club that you're working for. But I asked the question of, do we start from the top and then work its way down, or do we start from the bottom and try and get more ethnic minorities into roles, across the media, playing, whether it be coaching, all of that stuff? Because I see where you boys are coming from in the sense that, you're still waiting for an Asian footballer to break through. I think you're still waiting for an Asian, broadcaster to come through. There aren't many ethnic minorities in the game. I think, Williams, me and you have spoken about Black presenters and Black media workers only just starting to make a push through. Ria Ferdinand, Garth Crooks has been on it for a while. Jermaine Genius, Micah Richards. I watched a podcast with Micah Richards and he said that he was shocked to even be given a chance on Sky Sports with a mostly, white British panel. So what do we think about that in retrospective clubs and organizations looking at only hiring white people? Do you know what I mean?
The thing is, like, personally, obviously I want to go into a media role myself. I've not seen many people in especially from my community anyway, within media, within football itself. So it's very rare, and even coaching as well. I'm not come across many managers that are actually of Asian heritage myself. So it's something which I feel, going back to the point of obviously football clubs and obviously interviewing, certain ethnic minorities, I feel like they're hiding behind equal opportunities. They're saying they'll interview a certain amount of people, but obviously if they don't interview a certain amount of people and they discriminate, there'll be loads of legal challenges, by certain people. So football clubs are hiding behind equal opportunities. And unfortunately, I've not seen many Asians in the game, whether that's management and obviously people like yourself as well. I've not seen many of them in the game. And it's really sad to see because, everybody should be given an opportunity. Everybody's got a certain skill set that they can use. We all work hard in life. So some people should be given the opportunity and not discriminated on their race.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. As I said, Michael Richards, I don't think I've seen anyone come on Sky Sports and be as exciting and as bubbly as Michael Richards is. Patrick Zebra is obviously up there, but how is it only now that we're just starting to see it? Although it's great, why only now? Because I'm pretty sure there would have been many other Black and ethnic minorities and Asians who would have loved to be in that role, but just haven't been given the chance. So going forward, what can we do and what can be done to support these people?
I mean, when you look forward and you look into the future, it's impossible to tell. You know, we don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, in terms of every role in sport, you don't know how hard COVID's hit it, so there might not be as many jobs going as they want to anyway. So obviously that's going to make it 10 times harder for someone from an ethnic background who wants to break into an industry predominated by white males. That's just a fact anyway, unless the company is doing something different and stuff like that. Back to there are a few handful I see of my Asian people who present sports now. I think BT has a female Asian presenter, and Sky has the guy who hosts the football transfer window. I forgot his name now. But it's a handful. It's not loads. It's not plentiful. It's a handful. It's selected. You know, if you wanted to do a meal with them with social distancing laws, you probably would do it and have enough space left over, because there's just not that many people who represent my people in sport as a whole, and there needs to be more than that. I don't know how clubs can do it. It's a difficult thing. Maybe clubs can work with local communities and stuff like that. A big example of this is a chap called Imran Ghazi. Massive respect to him. Started Sporting Bengal in London. I think it's in London, yeah. And you know, it's a great football club that, you know, it welcomes all, but obviously as well, it's helping with Asian football development, and that's what we need now. That key development stage. We need stuff like that. We need hopefully big companies and big clubs to help with that development stage. You know, like, oh, we need more coaches in the Asian area. Why don't we get, you know, prosperous coaches and train them up? We need more match officials from, you know, the Asian community. You know, why don't we need to see those steps in place so that they can fix the outcome? You know, it's all good saying racism is bad, it's horrible. We can spend all night saying it is, and we all agree it is. But it's the changes we make as organizations, as individuals, that will lead to better change. It's small changes along the way that will make the future bright.
Yeah, absolutely. Quick stat: there are 6 Black and Asian ethnic minority managers across 91 of the teams across the Premier League and Football League. So that's powerful in its own, you know. 6 of 91 of those managers are not white. Do you know what I mean? So it's huge, I think. And yeah, I agree. Change definitely does need to be made. I think they need to start taking action as well. Yeah.
The thing is, it's not just a problem in football. You look at cricket as well in some aspects. You know, cricket's got the same issue. There's not enough Asians in the game. You know, even, you know, African Caribbean individuals that participate within cricket itself, there's not many of them as well. So it's not just a problem in football. It's across the board, to be honest.
I totally agree.
We're talking about cricket as well. The interest in the community, like obviously African and Caribbean, when they want to play cricket, is their interest there, kind of thing as well. So, like I talking about playing as well, and also, you know, at the top as well. Yeah. So yeah, with that as well, I feel like everything just comes down to just making it open for everyone, kind of making everyone feel welcomed. You know, like, yeah, this job can be accepted by literally anyone as long as you're skilled. Not anyone looking at a job and just saying, oh, I can't apply for that because of this or because of that. Everyone just feeling, you know, yeah, open, like, because it's an open job, and they feel like, yeah, I'm skilled and I'll get accepted because I'm skilled, not because of the color or whatever. So I feel like that mentality needs to be cut out. And yeah, you were asking Marion, like, do we start from the bottom to the top, from the top to the bottom to change this? I feel like from the top to change it, because obviously everyone looks at people at the top, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And if they can get in like an ethnic, someone in the ethnic minority at the top, then that would then give everyone else the confidence. Feel like, you know what, if he can do it, I can do it. You know what I mean? And whenever jobs open, they'll feel more confident to go out and apply for it, you know, as opposed to starting obviously right from the bottom. So I feel like, yeah, the top role, like the FA, the heads in the FA and things like that, they've got to be someone that of ethnic minority in there. So then it gives everyone, like, yeah, confidence to go for any job like that. out when it opens up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one thing I want to get across. That's my future. That's the one I want to know. That, you know, when I see someone, you know, hopefully one day, me, probably one of my mates or someone we know in WDSportz or anyone in that wants to go for a coaching job, he doesn't have to worry that, oh, you know what, I'm a different skin tone or anything like that. So that's the future I want, and hopefully we'll achieve that.
I agree. I agree totally with that. There is also a surprising lack of not just coaches and managers, but, you know, as we say, you know, people in media roles, senior management teams, equality and diversity officers, you know, safeguarding as well. So I think a big push needs to be done for those who feel like they can, and, you know, made not to feel like just because I am a different color or I don't look like everyone else, I can't be considered for that role because they might be brilliant at it. Do you know what I mean? So I totally agree with that. Yeah, I think, has anyone got anything else to add?
I think I'll just end on a final point, if that's all right. Yeah. I think everyone wants to just end on a little bit of a final message. I think obviously with this coming up, it's ugly, it's horrible, it's disgusting, but it's what we do now as individuals that will change the future. You know, if anyone's watching this or anything like that, who knows that do stuff like this, just report it. Try and speak. Try and just kick it out of the game, because we don't need it in life or in football. It's not on. It's not cool. It's not interesting. It's not funny. It's just pathetic and stupid. I think when people use social media, again, we could talk about this double-edged sword. You can use social media to create change, and you can use it to create destruction. And a lot of people veer to the left and use it to create destruction, and that's not what we should see. And if you do see that, report it. And yeah, if you are getting racially abused, whether you're a footballer, fan, or official, or anything like that, report it. And there are charities such as Kick It Out that can help you.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. I think as no one else has got anything to add, I think we'll end it there. But thank you very much, guys, for watching. Pleasure to have all you boys here as well to talk about that. And hopefully we'll get some other content pushed out for you in the near future. Thank you very much, and see you later.
Yes, thank you.